Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development Program, and in particular the AWD 1111.NET Framework with Web Databases class, I have been going through and doing a series of video presentations based on the book that will be used for this class for the fall 2019 semester. That book, as you can see on the screen here, is Pro ASP.NET MVC 5 and a press text by Adam Freeman. We're working our way through Chapter 18 of 24. And we're coming in and we're going to add an exception filter to our range test. Oops. Alright, there that is. Now, File, Save All. Again, we're going to go through here and run the program. And we will navigate again over to the /content/range error page.html. Alright, sorry, one of the arguments was out of the expected range. That was at 50 that we put in there. Alright. Alright, so we saw how that worked. Okay, next, using a view to respond to an exception. Depending on the exception you're dealing with, displaying a page of static content can be the simplest and safest thing to do. There is little chance of the process going wrong and causing additional problems. However, while you can be confident that the user will see the message, this approach is not especially useful to the user, who gets a generic warning. An alternative approach is to use a view to display details of the problem and present the user with some contextual information and options they may be able to use to help themselves. So if we go out to the range exception attribute.cs file, alright, we've got that if statement here, if this and this, and we change it. Let's comment this out, put in this. So we create a view result object and set the values of the view name and view data properties to specify the name of the view and the model object that will be passed to it. The author says this is messy code because he's working with the view result object directly rather than with a view method. The view result object specifies a view called range error and passes the integer value of the argument that caused the exception as the view model object. To display the results, we have to create a view shared folder and create a range error.cs HTML. So let's quickly do that. So I'm going to do a file, save all, come in here and under my views, there is a shared already. And in there we are going to add a new item. We'll go to MVC And we will find in here range error.cshtml. Oops. We will remove the code that was in there and replace it with the code that is shown on the bottom of page 504. The view file uses standard HTML and razor tags to present a slightly more useful message to the user. The example application is pretty limited. Alright, so there's nothing else the author says we can directly do to resolve the problem. Well, let's try this. File, save all. Let's run it. And again, we want to navigate over to /home. Try that again. /home /range test /50. All right. Well, why we're getting that one like that, I'm not sure. Thought I did it correctly. I may not have. Range test 50. Not sure what the problem is, but I'm going to go on. Clear this out. All right. On 505, they talk about avoiding the wrong exception trap. The benefits of using a view to display an error are that you can use layouts to make the error message consistent with the rest of the application and generate dynamic content which can hopefully help the user understand what is going wrong. The drawback is you must thoroughly test the view to make sure that you do not just generate another exception. So I'm going to go over into our range error .cshtml that we had here, and right before our doc type, so right here, and they mention on the next page that while the view is rendered, the code will generate a divide by zero exception. If you start the application and navigate over to the home test, home range test 50 URL again, the author says you will see the exception thrown while trying to render the view and not the one thrown by the controller. So what are we doing here? But I keep getting this. I'm getting an exception, but mine is not showing the way that it is in the book. This isn't out of range. And I should be getting a divide by 0. Again, with that value being 50. All right. Using the built-in exception filter is what's next. I'm at 11 minutes, but I'm going to go a little bit further. So the author says here, I showed you how to create an exception filter because I think understanding what happens behind the scenes in the MVC framework is a good thing. But you do not often need to create your own filters in real projects because Microsoft has included the handle error attribute in the MVC framework. This is a built-in implementation of the iException interface. With it, you can specify an exception and the names of the layout and view using the properties described on the top of page 507. Here the author says, when an unhandled exception of the type specified by exception type is encountered, this filter will render the view specified by the view property using the default layout or one specified by a master property. Let's finish up this section. It's not too long. Preparing to use the built-in exception filter. The handle error attribute works only when custom errors are enabled in the web.config file, which is done by adding a custom errors attribute inside of the system mode. Nothing like that in there now. So right before the bottom of system.web, before our closing, system.web tag. The default value for the mode attribute is remote only, which means that connections made from the local machine will always receive the standard yellow page of death errors, which is a problem because IIS Express will only allow local connections. By setting the mode attribute to on, we're specifying that the error handling policy should always be applied, irrespective of where the connections originate. It does not like this at all. I don't know how, but somehow I lost that. All right. So, like I said, I don't know how I lost that, but I did. You can see how we applied the handle error filter to the home controller in the listing here. We've received the situation I'm sorry, we have recreated a situation with the custom filter, which is that the argument out of range will be dealt with by displaying a range error view to the user. When rendering a view, the handle error attribute passes a handle error view model object, which is a wrapper around the exception that provides additional information, such as that shown here in figure 18-9 in the middle of page 508. We have to also go into our range error. We'll do this, we will run it, and then we will be done with this part. All right, so the range error .cshtml file. Again, not sure why, by and large, these are not working, but at least what I am doing is I'm trying to run through the steps with you to show you what's going on. And if I get an error, I get an error. Probably earlier where I was setting that thing to 50, there's some code in there that I probably now should be removing. Okay. Still getting that same error. So I'm going to stop right here and save. And I'm going to come back and talk about the using action filters in just a couple minutes. I want to quickly mention we will have more than 5 videos for this one because it's a longer chapter.